Are you thinking of moving to Dallas, Texas, and you want to know how much it costs to live here? Well, I'm going to break it down for you, give you every detail. I'm going to show you how much it costs me and my family to live in Dallas. I'm going to talk about water, electricity, gas, mortgage payment, everything from A to Z, so you know how much it's going to cost for you to live in Dallas and whether you should move here or not. So let's get right to it. So the very first thing I want to talk about is electricity and gas. Now, my house is mostly electricity. For example, our cooktop is electric cooktop. We don't have gas, and I kind of like that about our house just because I'm afraid of fire, right? Just in case, who knows what may happen. And so when it comes with electricity and gas, monthly on average, we pay about $220, $230, $240, $250 a month. Now, what we do is we basically keep the AC on during the summer and the heater on during the winter. Now, over here in Dallas, when it's over 100 degrees, it's not too much of a good idea to turn off the AC. That is when you go to work and then your house gets really hot. And then when you come home, you gotta turn it back on. And then it's just gonna, obviously the whole house, you gotta make it cool again, run it cool. And it's gonna take a lot of energy for that. So I don't know if this is true, but I've been told during those seasons, just kind of keep it on throughout the day. So that's what we do. We basically, during the summer when it's like 100 degrees, 90, even like 80 degrees, we just keep it on at like about high 70s or so. And then during the winter, when it's like 30s, 40s, 50s, we keep it on at like the high 60s or the low 70s just throughout the day, so that when we come home, it's like the perfect temperature. And this is also good because we have a little girl, and because of that, we want her to not always like cough when she comes home if it's like too cold or if it's too hot, just sweating. So we just want to keep the temperature very steady. So we do that during, I'd say, like about maybe 8 months of the year. I'm not sure exactly. And so this averages out the electricity and gas price to about a little over $200 a month. So we get calls, texts, emails from people like you who want to move to Dallas because house prices are cheap here. And if you want to move to Dallas, then feel free to call, text, email us, whatever you prefer. We're happy to help you make that smooth move to Dallas, Texas. The next thing is internet and cable TV. Now, we only have internet. We don't have cable TV. And I'm actually really proud that we don't have cable TV. We actually don't have a TV in our living room. Like our house, we come in, it's like, where's the TV? It's really not in the living room. And we have it in the media room, but we really don't use the TV. We don't watch the TV at all, really. And I'm really proud to say this because when our baby was about like a year old, a year and a half, and her grandparents, our parents, my wife's parents, out of the state, don't live in Texas. And it was a really hard time. It was a very difficult time taking care of a baby, raising a baby. And so when she turned about like a year to 2 years, it was a time where we just wanted to give her the iPad. We just wanted to turn on the TV for her so that she can, so that can keep her busy and we can kind of do what we got to do, like wash the dishes, throw out the trash, cook, etc., and even just eat a meal. And parenting, as if you're a parent, it is the hardest thing in life. I wish like someone had told me it'd be this hard because I would have had been warned about this. But anyways, it is the hardest thing in life. I remember when I was like in my 20s and my 30s, and I miss those times of being able to sleep whenever I wanted to sleep. If I wanted to sleep at 11 p.m. or midnight, I can just sleep. I can wake up whenever I want, as long as I wake up before work. I can eat whatever I want. I can watch TV whenever. I can do whatever I want to do. But once I had a baby, that was game over. It was like I couldn't do anything I want to do. Everything was around my baby's schedule. And so it was the hardest thing in life. And so we wanted to give her the iPad. We wanted to give her the TV because that would keep her busy. But I can say that as a proud dad now, I didn't give into that. And so to this day, she's over 4 years old and she doesn't watch TV. We don't give her the phone. We don't give her an iPad. We don't turn on the TV for her. And so I think that's really good as parents, as helping out my kid with that. And so I'm just really proud. I just wanted to tell you that. That's why we don't have cable TV. At the end of the day, all we have is internet, and we pay roughly about $50 or so on internet. And so that's how much internet costs here. Now, I am going to talk about the mortgage payment, how much houses cost here in Dallas. And you're going to want to hear that because that's actually the number one reason why a lot of people will move to Dallas, because they can afford to purchase a house. And so I'm going to be talking about that soon, but a couple more things I want to talk about. And one of the things that, or the next thing is, I want to talk about water, trash, and sewer. And for us, this is all encompassed. It's all in one, just one company that we pay to, and we pay roughly on average about $200. Now, when it comes with water, there are certain times of the year where it's really expensive and certain times when it's not too expensive. Like, we have water bills that are above $200 up until like almost $300, and then sometimes water bills that are like a little above $100. So it really fluctuates. And when does this fluctuate? It fluctuates during the seasons when it gets really hot or when there's a lot of rain. For example, when it gets really hot, or maybe not really hot, but just kind of hot, like a really nice warm temperature, we got to keep the sprinklers on. The reason why the water bill is so high is because of the sprinklers, because we got to water the lawn, and that's what makes this water bill so high, up to like almost $300. Now, when we don't turn it on, when it's a rainy season, during the winter, we just shut it off, then that really saves us a lot of water bill, and that brings it up to a little over $100. So on average, I would say monthly about $200, give or take, for water, trash, and sewer. So let's talk about auto insurance. Here in Dallas, of course, anywhere throughout America, it really depends on your history as to how well of a driver you are. It also depends on your age, the age of your car as well, how often you or how much you drive to work. So all these different factors are important as to how much you're going to pay for your auto insurance. But at least here in Dallas, and for our car payments, we pay about $200, $210, $220. We'll just calculate it as $220 for 2 cars. My wife has a car, I have a car. We both drive for work. We drive a lot. We have a pretty good history in terms of not having too many accidents or tickets, things of that sort. Also, when it comes with the age of our cars, we have one car that's a bit newer, another car that's a bit older. And so all these different factors, we pay about $220 for 2 cars for auto insurance. So let's talk about gas. Now, gas here is pretty cheap. We're talking about roughly $3 a gallon. So let's say you have a car that has 13 gallons, your tank is 13 gallons, multiply that by $3, you get about $39 or roughly $40 for 1 full tank of gas. And so let's say you fill your tank about every week or so. So you're talking about roughly $200. We'll just put that ballpark figure. So $200 per car. If you got 2 cars, then we're going to be about $400 per month on gas. So let's talk about tolls. Tolls are not a good thing when you get your toll bill. Now, when you're riding the tolls, it is amazing because it's like wide open. Not all tolls and not all times, but for a lot of the times, tolls are pretty convenient when you can just take the toll rather than drive on the service road. Service road are the roads that are next to the toll. It's basically like a local traffic, but you can drive a little faster than local streets. So those are service roads. Those don't cost anything, but tolls here in Dallas, they definitely cost a lot of money. Now, one way from one place to another place, one way I'd say like a couple bucks would be very reasonable. And then you gotta obviously pay for the drive back. So round trip, if you're gonna do both ways, taking the toll. So let's just say you do round trip toll, roughly about $5 a day. So if you are always having to take the toll for work, then we're talking about 22 days on weekdays, but let's just calculate it as 20 weekdays times $5, and we're talking about $100 a month. Now, me and my wife, we drive the tolls all the time. She has to take the tolls to work, and for myself, showing clients homes, I'm going to want to take the tolls because I drive a lot as well. So in a month, we spend about like $250 on tolls. And so I know that's a lot, but unfortunately that's how it is if you live near the tolls. If you don't live near the tolls and you don't have to commute to work and you can avoid the tolls in any way, shape, or form, that's great for you because you're going to be saving a lot of money. But when it comes with tolls, you can look at about like $200 or $250 a month. And just a few more things before we talk about the best thing about Dallas, Texas, which is the house prices being so low and so affordable. And if you're thinking of moving to Dallas, feel free to call, text, email us, what to prefer. We're happy to help you move to Dallas, Texas. The next thing I want to talk about has to do with healthcare. Now, healthcare, it really depends on family. Some people don't want to get insurance. Some people want to pay out of pocket. Some people feel safe getting medical insurance. And so that really just depends. But medical insurance can cost per person about like $300, $400, $500 a person. So for example, if it was us, a family of 3, we're talking about maybe $1,000 or $1,200, but we'll just calculate it as $1,000 for medical insurance. We're kind of like in the state of, we're in between that state of getting insurance. We're right now at the moment cash pay patients. And so what had happened was the other day we went to the doctor because my daughter needed to get her shots because now she's over 4 years old, so she needs to get shots. And we've been kind of training her. Oh, you're gonna get the shots, it's gonna be okay, everyone gets it at this age or so, and you're gonna be fine, and you're gonna get 2 shots. And so she was kind of like at first scared, but she got kind of okay. So we go to the doctor and she's asking, okay, when am I gonna get the shots? When am I gonna get the shots? And she's pretty cool, she's pretty chill. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, wait until you get the shots. You are gonna go crazy. You're gonna cry like a baby. This is what I'm thinking. I'm not telling her, obviously, because I don't want to scare her. Because when she was 2 years old, of course she cried, which all 2-year-old babies do, right? They all cry when they get the shots. So when she was getting the shot, before she was getting the shot, she kept asking, when is she gonna get it? And then the assistant comes, and then the doctor comes, and then finally when the doctor leaves, I said, okay, it's time for you to get the shots. The assistant's gonna come in and you're gonna get 2 shots. And at that moment, she just kind of froze. She was like scared. She was like, oh no, I don't want to get the shots. And she was scared. And then the assistant comes in. Assistant says, okay, she needs to get on the seat, and we put her on her back, and she's lying down, and she's like, oh no. All of a sudden the assistant puts in the first shot, and she kind of like gets up. She's like, was that it? And then she gets the second shot, and she was like, that was it? And then the band-aid was put on her, and I was completely amazed that she did not cry. That I was like, man, if I was 4 years old, I would have cried as a boy. But she's a girl and she's 4, and she took it like a warrior. That's all to say, basically, at the end of the day, the bill cost us about $140. But anyways, $140 for her medical visit, her wellness checkup, and then the 2 shots that she got. And so if you pay out of pocket, that's how much you're going to cost. She is going to go to the dentist in next week or so, and that's going to be another like what, $150. That's how much we pay here, cash pay patients. But in terms of if you have insurance, we're talking about $1,000 a month. So let's talk about food. Now, when it comes with food, it really depends on each family, because some people are obviously going to eat out more. Some people are going to cook at home more. What we do is we eat out twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, but we try to stick it with twice a week. And what we do is on the weekdays, we eat out once, maybe like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, we eat out for dinner. And then on a weekend, maybe a Saturday or a Sunday, we would eat out. Or if it's 3 times a week, it's because we're eating out Saturday once and then Sunday once. And then we have the midweek 3 times a week. So 3 times a week, grocery shopping. And then at the end of the day, we're spending about, I think, $1,000 to $1,200 on food, grocery, everything. So we'll just calculate it as $1,000. So if you eat out more, then of course you're going to be spending more, but that's how much we're spending. Now, when it comes with daycare, the average is about $1,200, $1,300 or so here in Dallas. And I can say this because we've been to a few daycares. We changed daycares, and they all cost about that price, $1,200 to $1,300. We currently pay about $1,200. And so it really depends on the number of hours you stay throughout the day. So if you're like a half day, it's going to cost you less. If you're a full day, extended hours, whatever you choose is going to obviously change with that. We're basically like a full day of daycare, not like super early morning, but like kind of like 9 a.m. or so is kind of where the cutoff is. And we kind of pay from that to the rest of the day. And so that's the daycare. And I don't know how much second child costs because we don't have a second child. And so all I know is the first child is roughly about $1,200, $1,300 a month for daycare. Now let's talk about mortgage payment. The number one reason why people move to Dallas, besides like they're getting relocated due to work, their company's moving here, but besides that part, because that's kind of not optional really, but the number one reason why people are moving here to Dallas has to do with house prices. House prices here in Dallas are so reasonable. I love it. This is the main reason why I love Dallas, is because the house prices, you can buy a house here in Dallas. Now, if you're in California and New York or Chicago, any major city, you're having to spend over $1 million for an old house and a tiny house. Here in Dallas, you get like a $500,000 property price point. You can get a house that's over 2,000 square feet, sometimes even 3,000 square feet, and a much newer home in comparison to those major cities. And that is why I absolutely love the city of Dallas. And you can find homes in like, of course, in like the 300,000, 400,000, and those homes are going to be a bit older, but definitely you can find homes at that starting price. So let's talk about the mortgage payment. Now you can go to my website, which is danielagent.com. You can go into the mortgage calculator, and this will definitely help you kind of determine how much your house or how much your mortgage payment is going to cost you every single month. All you got to do is go to danielagent.com, and under the buyers tab, click that mortgage calculator. And when you click that mortgage calculator, you type in your purchase price. So let's say that you want to purchase a house at $500,000. And let's say your down payment is 3%. So that's going to put you at a down payment of $15,000. And you also have to pay your closing costs. And we're going to keep the loan terms as at 30 years because most loans are at 30 years. Interest rate, I know we're kind of at a higher interest rate these days, but let's just put it at 5% because 5% is very common, very average. And let's put the HOA fees at, we'll put it at, how about $50 for HOA fees. I think that's pretty reasonable. And then the mortgage insurance, we're going to put it at $160. So $160, and we're going to click calculate, and you get a total monthly payment of $2,813. Isn't that pretty cool to be able to see this mortgage calculator, know exactly how much you're gonna have to pay? Now, so you're paying about a mortgage payment of $2,813 a month. And then your property tax is gonna cost you roughly about $600 or so for a $500,000 property. And I'm just giving a ballpark figure. So $2,813 plus $600 is going to get you $3,413. So you're paying $3,413 every month on your mortgage payment along with your property tax. And this is including your mortgage insurance as well as your HOA. And that's pretty good because let's talk about rent. Now, rent here in Dallas, we're talking at least like $2,000 for a single family home. So if you have a family and you want to rent a single family home, then you're going to have to spend $2,000, $3,000 a month. So let's just say you spend $2,000 a month on rent, and you multiply that by 12 months, then you get $24,000 a year. You're throwing out $24,000 a year to the landlord. And yes, I get it. You're paying $3,400, which is more than $2,000, and about $600 of that is going into your property tax, which you can never get back. But $2,800 is going into your mortgage loan, and a lot of that in the very beginning is going to your interest, just to let you know. So that's why I always tell people, hey, pay off your mortgage payment as fast as you can. But $2,800 into your mortgage payment, and then if your house price goes up from, let's say, $500,000 to maybe $600,000, then what you've just done is you've built $100,000 of equity, and that's basically, in a sense, free money. Of course, you got to pay taxes, things of that sort at the end of the day, but it is free money. And so this is why I would rather purchase a house than rent a property and give money to the landlord. And so yes, we do pay about $3,400 with interest rate at 5%. So that's kind of the mortgage payment for that. So let's add up everything so we know exactly how much it costs to live in Dallas. So I said electricity and gas is about $230. The internet was about $50. Water, trash, sewer was about $200 on average. Talked about the car insurance. The auto insurance was about $220 for 2 cars. Talked about the gas, which is about $400 for 2 cars. The toll was about $250 for 2 cars. Healthcare was about $1,000. Food, $1,000. Daycare was $1,200. And so we get a total of $4,550. So $4,550. And then the mortgage payment that I mentioned was $3,413. So our total amount is $7,963. So we are a little less than $8,000 a month. Now, again, if you don't pay for medical insurance, that's going to bring you down to about $7,000. If you don't have to send your kid to daycare, that's going to bring you down from $7,000 minus $1,200, $5,800. So really, it just depends on each person as to how much we spend, but just kind of a ballpark, you can think about spending $8,000, that includes your mortgage payment, your property tax, your living expenses, everything. And so that feels a bit expensive, a bit high, but I do know it is a lot cheaper than other states such as California, New York, Chicago, Illinois, the bigger cities, right? And so this is a great opportunity for people in Dallas who live here to be able to pay off whatever they got pay off, and then be able to save money as well. And at the end of the day, own a house, own a home. And that is the greatest thing about living in Dallas. So now you know how much you need to live in Dallas, and I'm sure that's going to help you make a better decision whether you should move here or not. And if you are thinking of moving here, feel free to call, text, email us, whatever you prefer. We're happy to help you move to Dallas, Texas. And if you like this video, click that like button. If you haven't done so, make sure to subscribe below. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.